Welcome to the PLATE conference, Product Lifetimes and the Environment at TU Delft. In this session, we will discuss planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is a policy of designing products intentionally with a limited lifetime. Planned obsolescence is forbidden by law in France. However, in this session, we ask if planned obsolescence really exists, or is there another story to be told? And you can tweet at PLATE 2017. I'm sitting here with Eric Ober from Vienna. Eric, what are the activities on EU level regarding planned obsolescence?
May I interrupt you? This is not called planned obsolescence anymore. The Commission uses now the term premature obsolescence.
Why is the European Union Commission putting emphasis on the term premature obsolescence?
Well, premature is an adjective and planning is a verb. And behind planning, there is somebody who is responsible to plan. And the Commission at this moment wanted to get out of the blame game. Well, if you look, for instance, at the resolution of the European Parliament from the 7th of July this year, or the 7th of June this year, you have a list of possible measures. What the Commission is looking at the moment for is to get some data how products can be made, produced, manufactured, to be repaired, and to lengthen the lifetime of service lifetime.
Is premature or planned obsolescence real, or is it a myth?
So usually people try to explain planned obsolescence by product failures or the identification of weak points like glued batteries and software anti-features. But the thing is, this is no sufficient proof because you just observe the consequence of a decision a planner made before. So what we ask ourselves is, what does the planner actually did? So what is his paradigm?
Planned in the sense that a lifetime is planned. That's always the case. In all technical artifacts, you have a certain lifetime. And if you're an engineer developing something, you have to calculate this lifetime. So this is not a secret, that's open. But the other thing is, do they intentionally put in mistakes or something like this? And we asked a lot of engineers in an environment where they were really free to speak, confidential, no relation with the management or so. And the answer is a plain no. Nobody intentionally puts in mistake into the products. But the constraints they have, time pressure quite often more important than cost pressure, but there's also time to market, things like this, that limits in the end the lifetime of the products.
Relative factors like money, matter, technological change, trends matter much more for the product lifetime than these absolute factors like built-in obsolescence.
Developing, producing a good product takes a lot of money, takes time, takes effort, takes expertise. This is not for free. So you have to invest. On the other hand, just that you buy an expensive product does not guarantee that it's good. But it's difficult for a cheap product to be good.
Anukat Kirsi, is premature obsolescence something that you consider as an option in designing textiles?
Well, that actually a little bit depends that what kind of business the designer is operating. It's a way of creating trends and changing collections. So really this kind of obsolescence actually is embedded in the fashion system. But then on the other hand, there are small businesses which are very often designed themselves actually running the business. So they actually are really thinking about this kind of also the use phase and the long-term use of garment, and they can actually build different kind of business models.
Well, planned obsolescence can have advantages. For example, if you have goods that you don't want to be reused. Anouk, what is your position?
So I feel that obsolescence is something that occurs in all products. So it influences the lifetime of our products. And in that sense, we should always consider how we plan that obsolescence in a design phase. So I feel that it should be part of the design process in an early stage, so that we can anticipate what happens to our product in use.
Is the consumer a victim, or is he actually at the origin of the whole
Well, I would say that,
premature
I
obsolescence?
would say that this is like a marriage. Everyone is actually involved in the process. Very often companies are blamed the consumers and consumers companies, but actually we are all involved in that system.
Which goods did you specifically mention?
I looked at goods transitioning into fast moving. So we all know food and disposable razors, etc., as fast moving consumer goods, but now other single-use products are entering or are adopting that strategy. So there's the disposable single-use camera, and then there's a cardboard tent that we use at a festival and we leave it behind.
Isn't it important that products don't last forever?
The problem I see with planned obsolescence is that we're planning for obsolescence, but we don't have a plan for when we reach that point of obsolescence. So if we know when we're going to have products that are obsolete, why not anticipate for that moment so that we can start collecting the materials and take them back into the value chain? So I think that's the opportunity for planned obsolescence, with a positive note for planned obsolescence.
Kirsi, in your lecture today, you mentioned a Swedish jeans company that gives a lifelong guarantee. But they also have mobile repair shops, and they repair their clothes for free. So why should a textile company do this?
Yeah, I think that links to this brand value aspect, that actually there are other kind of values than only the monetary value. So if you are a reliable brand in a way that you also take care of this kind of use phase of the garment, of course that's increase the brand value, so that actually you create different kind of relationship with the consumer, with your customer. So it might be that at the end of the garment's life, this customer comes back and buys your clothing because actually you have provided this kind of satisfaction for the consumer.
Is it true that product life is decreasing, or is it increasing?
According to the results of our study, it is likely that the lifetimes of common durable goods have been increasing in Japan over the past few decades.
Harald, what have you found?
Yeah, indeed, the evidence that exists is only on consumer goods, and we cannot make some very big conclusions about acceleration or deceleration, because it really depends on the products, on the countries, huge variation across countries. And in many cases you just see an up and down, but in the cases I've looked at, you rather see increases more than decreases.
Both of you, have you found a correlation between economic success or crisis and product life?
A bit, because usually in economic crisis sales go down, so that it is a sign that products are kept, at least for that period. But we don't really know whether, I mean, it might have the effect that people just replace it right after the crisis, but so far there hasn't been any big analysis about these effects.
And what about you?
Yeah, so I didn't see the correlation between the economy and the product lifetimes quantitatively, but my personal opinion is that in Japan, the Japanese economy had been bad for a long time, so I think the Japanese people tend to use product much longer than before.
Harald, if from your experience, your research, you could give a piece of advice to the European Commission on how to tackle the issue of premature obsolescence, what would you tell them?
Well, currently, most thinking about policy measures originates from the idea that actually currently everything is accelerating. But if it's true that we find that there's a lot of deceleration going on, that would mean that there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the past, and so apparently a lot has been working already. I think we should definitely do more research about that so we can formulate some policy recommendations. But generally, it's very important to have to differentiate according to the products. It can be tremendously different cases, but I generally think there's a strong regulatory case to be made about it. I don't think that just information campaigns to consumers will do much of a difference. Will make much of a difference.
There is a wish or a need or, I don't know, an expectancy around durable products. So there is this idea that this is something good. But at the same time, there is a high mistrust against producers, designers, traders, that they sell something, they're cheating, kind of. And yeah, and at the same time, consumers, they feel kind of unease about increasing amounts of waste, and they feel that they could maybe do more, kind of implicitly, but yeah, and this creates a kind of unease, and in this whole construct, they locate the responsibility somewhere else to reduce the unease. That would be my hypothesis. So investigating are the terms called affordance. So how a product invites you to occupy yourself with it, with its functions, and not only with its performance that you want to drive and then you drive, but only how does it work, that it functions, that it works. And the affordance could be something, or affordance is a term to describe how much an environment, for example, or a product or a thing invites you to engage with it. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Germany there's a very intense media discussion or kind of public outrage about obsolescence. And it started, we looked at the last 30 years, and I mean, the beginning of the 20th century and in the end of the 20th century, there were some articles about it, but not so much. And then in 2011, it started with a really high media coverage of this issue. And now it's like a permanent issue of outrage, a permanent matter of outrage. And we looked at 200 different articles, and I mean, almost everybody or almost all the articles were about planned obsolescence, and they all had a linear allocation of responsibility towards producers. So there was no question, and they always, very often, not always, very often they started with an introduction like everybody has already experienced the product breaks down after the 2-year warranty. They presented it as a normalized experience that everybody makes. And in our survey, we asked people what products in the last 10 years broke down after the 2-year warranties. And I mean, it was 10%, 20%. It was not so much. It was not like everybody. And there weren't also, if we asked about products that break down in general, like also after many years after purchase, there were also not so many products. So people don't experience products that break down all the time. That's not the case. What I would like to encourage also here on the conference, and I think there are also other people who do that, is to reflect on the bigger picture. So to think how product lifetimes evolve as a social phenomena or as a social construct, and how our material culture is carried by obsolescence, or our material culture carries obsolescence, the other way around. That means that how do our practices depend on not long-lasting products, on short-lasting products, and how our own practices make products become into being, and product lifetimes become into being. And if we want to manage those other side effects of action. We need the big picture first. So to build a kind of a theory of obsolescence or a theory around lifetimes, which is, integrating the knowledge of different disciplines. And
I'm here with Tim Cooper, who has been researching for the last 23 years the attitude of consumers and their expectations on service life versus opulence. Tim, what have you found in your research?
Well, we found that the consumer has a major role to play in product lifetimes, in how they use products. That often determines how long they last. We've also found that products last a particular lifespan and consumers aren't too unhappy with how long they last.
So finally, if there is premature obsolescence, the consumers don't object to this.
Many consumers seem reasonably happy. It was surprising. We did a survey early this year. Over 1,000 consumers we interviewed. We asked them about a whole range of different products, and we asked them whether they were satisfied with the average lifespan of products. And we expected to find a lot more dissatisfaction than we found. And I think that reflects the fact that expectations have fallen over the last 20 years. That whereas in the past, certainly when I was growing up as a child, when we bought a fridge freezer or washing machine, you expected it to last at least 10 years and possibly 20. These days, 5, 7 years and people don't complain.
Tim, hope you continue for another 23 years your research so we can profit from your conclusions and learnings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walter.
Please join us this afternoon on 2 live video sessions. The first one on
repair and the world of physical things and how we can take care of them
with Kyle, and the second one on design for long life and business as unusual.